Hey, hello, greetings and welcome. All right, let's have a look at doing retreats. When you're getting ready for a retreat, it's really beneficial to get your body into a state of ketosis. There's a website called healingbyang.com, and it's one of my friends, Dennis, has set up that website. Click on the articles page, and there's an article on a liver cleanse, and go through that protocol and get your liver cleaned, and you'll find that if you want to get into a ketogenic diet or start fasting, when you do a liver cleanse, it's very easy. When I do that liver cleanse, and I can drop straight into a fast very, very comfortably. It's effortless. So this is a good starting point. It makes it easy to get into that ketogenic state, to get into a fast, and then when you're in your retreat, your mind is much calmer. Your mental space is much more open. Most people, when they go into retreat mode, they start like a vegan, vegetarian diet, and they look at that as cleaning up their lifestyle for the retreat. And what this will do, it will amplify your life force by eating raw, whole foods. If you put a food under a microscope and it's alive, it will have a resonant reaction in your life force and make you glow. It's very good for you. But this would only be benefit for a type of retreat where you're working on cultivating chi, where you're working inside of the context of building energy and form. Then it'd be beneficial. But if you're doing a Vipassana retreat, a retreat where you're raising up into the non-dual light spaces and expanding your mental body outwards, then you want to do the opposite. You want to be in a state of ketosis. And when you look at all the different masters who have talked about their experiences, they've all been in a ketogenic state. They've either been fasting or having a very small amount of food, which has forced them into ketosis. So this difference between working and cultivating the vital astral, the vegan diet will work fantastically, a raw diet. And for me, I found for that having a raw meat diet worked fantastically, because it would give me the balance between a living food that's full of energy. You have raw salmon, for instance, and you can feel your energy system gets a hit. Plus, you can keep yourself in a ketogenic state very easily, so you get a double effect. One of my friends did a raw meat diet for several years, and his ability to swim underwater went from 1 lap of an Olympic pool to 3 laps of an Olympic pool inside of 1 year. His flexibility went through the roof, and he's a guy in his 50s. So his cardio went through the roof, huge change to his physiology, and he lived on raw meat. So there's this balancing act. Conventionally, traditionally, we look at the vegan approach as the approach for a meditator. And for working inside of form, this is 100% correct. When you're in the formless, you need to fast, or you need to maintain a ketogenic diet. Okay, so quick revision of why. Fasting and a ketogenic diet demagnetizes the mental matrix, softens the astral matrix, so your mind occupies a much vaster, larger space, which activates your spirit senses, which puts you into an intuitive state. All right, so this is your preparation for the retreat. Then during the retreat, what protocols do you follow? Are you doing this retreat with your partner, your spouse? If that's the case, make a no ejaculation rule. And you should, before that retreat, if you're planning to have any form of intercourse during the retreat, you need to cultivate a deep, profound level of stillness inside of the intercourse. It means you're practicing tantric transformation principles. It's very important that there's no animal sex. Even if you don't ejaculate, it can't be wild. A lot of people who practice non-ejaculation techniques are still having wild sex, and you need to cultivate a deep, profound level of stillness underneath your body, underneath your feeling, underneath your mind during any tantric practice. So you have to decide beforehand. If you're doing, let's say you and your partner are going to rent a cabin and go up in the mountains and do 1 week, 2 weeks of retreat, and do a fast during that time. If there's any form of intercourse, it has to be highly mindful, very large amount of mental space, very large amount of expanded astral energy, and your vital field needs to be connected to the forest around you. So you need to choose that before you go in. Most cases, most people don't have the spiritual maturity to practice tantrically in a retreat. Now, the next aspect to look at is are you going to be doing the retreat fasting? So you want to already be in ketosis before the retreat, otherwise the first 72 hours and the 2-week keto adapting period, it's difficult. You want to already be there so that you can maximize the time in the retreat. I like to do 2-week fasts. My last long fast was 3 weeks, and it's fantastic. Your mind is just so comfortable, inflammation in the body drops off. As an example, for the last 20 years I've had a whole range of health problems, and my whole life I've been vegan, vegetarian, on and off. And every time I have a health problem, I fast, and the health problem disappears. The diabetes disappears, the arthritis disappears, inflammation in the body disappears, heart murmurs, arrhythmia, all these different nerves pinching, twitching I get in my neck, some of you will see in my videos. It's all gone when I fast. It all vanishes. And the stronger I focused on the veganism, worse my health would get. Very strange. But when I would fast, all the health problems disappeared. So although there's a huge body of research which says veganism is really good for your health, it's not good for everybody. You need to look at what is good for you. All right, so once you've got your diet sorted for that period, and you've chosen, okay, this is my nutrition, this is my sexual intercourse precepts, you make your precepts of truth. They say, oh, thou shalt not lie as a precept, but all these precepts are tuning forks which vibrate and generate something. You can't have a precept which is an absence of something. It's not a tuning fork and energy that vibrates. Like when you're in truth, you don't lie. So you generate a frequency of truth. You're truthful with yourself, you're truthful with looking in the mirror and to really know yourself, you're truthful looking at your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors. You're truthful in how you speak, you're truthful in how you study, you're truthful in every aspect of inquiry into yourself. What this does is having that precept, it opens up the subconscious mind to seeing truth. If you're not truthful with yourself, your unconscious mind isn't going to reflect truth into your consciousness. You won't be able to see the truth of your environment, you won't be able to see the Dharma and the universal laws. It's very important to take this precept and build it. So you choose your precepts. If it's a Buddhist retreat, they'll have the basic precepts of no lying, stealing, no harmful energy, no sex, no media. You're not allowed to sleep on a high, luxurious bed. You have to sleep on a low bed. And there's reasons for all these precepts. There's no intoxicants and so forth. There's no wearing of jewelry. We don't want any hierarchy being generated between you and other people in the retreat. I like to do all my retreats alone. If there's any form of social interaction with other people, it's very difficult to maintain that deep connection to spirit, that deep mindfulness. Because it's our habit to relate to other people and through social connections, through our astral ego, our ego comes up. But if you have no speech and you're in quietude, then you can stay in the spirit. And this is important. Now, there are a lot of practices who really focus on the skill of bringing their spirit into their astral ego and interacting and socializing with people. Well, I don't really have that skill. It's not to me, practice is sacred. And if I'm not in a group teaching and training as a group, or practicing on my own, I'm not in that sacred space. I don't go to a coffee shop and chat to people and remain sacred. It's It's a contradiction. So in spiritual practice, you open a magic circle, you enter into the Akasha, you balance the elements, and then you connect to light, you go to your highest, you connect to divinity, and then you dwell within your highest. And when you're dwelling within your highest, social interactions is it's a very precise skill that you need to develop. And it's a very high level of commitment. And it basically means you enter into prayer and you're never leaving. That means you're taking the path of a saintly path or a sacred path. Now, what I like to do is compartmentalize my lifestyle. I've got time for practice, I've got time for connecting to the sacred, I have time for teaching, and then I have time for going to a coffee shop, looking at my tablet, enjoying a coffee, and just sort of backing off on the mindfulness and just taking in my environment and having a social interaction with the environment. And the social interaction means I don't have to talk to anyone, but I let my guard down. I just, and release. In retreat, you don't do that. The idea is to maintain a continuity of mindfulness of your meditation object or the exercise that you're practicing. Some people will go into a retreat with a sense of a mantra. They'll say, okay, I'm going to chant this mantra for 7 days. And then they'll start chanting the mantra and build it till they hit a type of critical mass. They'll get 100 hours of chanting this mantra. And this energy will just be bubbling up inside them. Other people will go, okay, I'm just going to be quiet and observe the rising, falling away, more of a Vipassana style retreat. And they observe their own thinking, their feeling, their body, their breath. And whatever arises, they observe it arise. And whatever falls, they observe it fall. And they don't let anything rest on their mind, or show more correctly, don't let their mind rest on anything. They stay in the observing mode. So here you decide, okay, what are my protocols for the retreat? What are my precepts? What is the technique? What is the goal? So let's say you're doing a retreat where you want to develop clairvoyance. You go, okay, well, what's the causation chain of clairvoyance? Mindfulness through eye consciousness, one-pointed concentration through eye consciousness, the point of stillness, dwelling within the stillness of the eye consciousness, and then applying peripheral open eye consciousness in all your activities when you're walking, showering, bathing, sitting, standing, laying down, and so forth. And then you vital breathe through the eyes, interacting with the trees and the forest. So you extend your mind out to the tree and you pull the vital energy of the tree into your eyes, out of the eyes, and you go into union through eye consciousness with the forest and nature. Then you'd practice the visualization exercises. So I just posted an exercise on this. So you go through all the different tricks. How do you get your mind to visualize and hold images effectively, efficiently, and quickly? And then you enliven those images, and then you soften them off. So you're highly engaged, and then you're just in the peripheral vision of observing floating images in your mind. So you train the visual imagery, you enliven them with life force, and you dissolve them. So you work from imagery within the vital, and you work with imagery within the astral, you work with imagery within the mental, and then you work with imagery in the Akasha. Then you stream light through those levels, through your eye consciousness, through your pineal gland, and you activate and awaken your clairvoyance. You balance the elements in the four regions, you develop the Akasha in the body, you develop the Akasha in the eye consciousness, and you continually are dissolving resistance between you and the divine eye. It's in your genetic code to be clairvoyance. It's in everybody's genetic code. It's just switched off in most people. So you want to switch it on. So you go through what is the causation chain. So your whole retreat is an investigation into developing one skill, say clairvoyance. So before you go onto your retreat, why are you doing it? What is the objective? What is the outcome? What do you want from your retreat? Then once you've planned out what you're going to practice for the retreat, how many days it's going to be, you've planned out your meals, you either have your meals already provided for you in a Vipassana retreat, or you do the shopping beforehand for that period of time, and you practice the mindfulness of when you have to cook the food, prepare the food, and then consume the food. You define your protocols for each activity during the retreat. So what is your mental state when you're preparing food? If you were Hare Krishna, you would be chanting. You'd be pronouncing that mantra and bringing Krishna into the food and charging it up and going through your cultural belief of that religion and charging it into the food. And then after you'd prepared the food and you've put it on the table and you've fully loaded it with energy, you'd consume it, and then you pay attention to the frequency of light that's emanating out of the charge, and you'd let it vibrate through your mental body, vibrate through your astral body, vibrate through your physical body as you consume the food. So this protocol for the retreat needs to be decided beforehand. Then you just fill out the protocol, you fulfill it. When you shower, how do you shower? What's the ritual for showering? The consciousness of water encompasses the whole planet. The planet is covered in water. It's a mind, and it's sacred. You connect to the sacredness of the water spirit. You invite the water spirit into you, and then before you touch the water, you ask the power of water to purify your mind, to purify your soul, to purify your body, and to bring forward profound success in the objectives of the retreat. And then you bathe. And when you touch the water, you're doing so in a state of prayer to the spirit of water, which in your unconscious mind reflects the effects of what you just prayed for. So your purification protocol for bathing is all preset. You practice those rituals beforehand, so you're not learning how to do them in the retreat, you're mastering them in the retreat. If there's a river or a lake you're going to swim in, when you go to the river or the lake, you follow the protocol. You pray to the spirit of the lake. You show respect to that spirit, and you do so from non-dual light, from your highest level of attunement, your highest connection to the spirit of water, to the spirit of the lake. So it recognizes that hierarchical structure of non-dual coming into the hierarchy of duality down to the spirit of the lake, and you get treated appropriately. If you went to the lake with a very casual attitude, with a casual emotional astral emanation, the spirit of the lake would relate to you based on what you're emanating, and that would be your relationship. And because beings of the elements are hierarchically structured, they will treat you in accordance with hierarchy. So if you go to your highest and have deep, profound humility, devotion to the spiritual path, deep reverence, deep sacredness, and you're emanating a type of stillness, they will treat you totally differently when you step into that lake and bathe, and it will purify and clean your three bodies. So these protocols all have to be decided, journaled, documented before you go onto the retreat. How are you going to walk between structures? How are you going to walk to the lake? What is your protocol for walking? Now you may be going, okay, I'm going to mind moves chi, chi moves body, so my mind expands out into the space between me and the place I want to go, in this case the lake. I move the astral feeling of energy into that space, and then I work through the biotensecurity to lift the feet and walk as if you're doing your Tai Chi form, but in a much more floating, because you're in air element, you're not trying to ground yourself, and you float and walk very slowly and comfortably to the lake. When you're moving from point A to point B, what is the mental state? What is the astral state? What is the physical state of that movement? This all needs to be defined before the retreat. Then any other aspects that are in the retreat, when you're using the bathroom facilities, you may, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom, but before you go to the bathroom, you take a glass of water, you charge the water with the water element for purification, you drink that glass of water, and you make a prayer, may the spirit of water wash my mind, wash my feeling, wash my body, and wash all harmful chemicals out of the body to make them harmless and dissolve them. Then you go to the bathroom, you urinate, and then you stream light through your mental, through your astral, through your physical, through the urine stream, and then you bathe light and have that absorb toxicity out of your body. And you may have that purification protocol in place before you do the retreat. How are you going to sleep? Are you going to allowed to read a book before sleep, or is it pure, okay, it's time to sleep? What is your protocol? Before sleep, you may want to charge the three bodies with light, and then move your awareness up into the ocean of light, and then let your physical body fall asleep, so you have a light body experience while you sleep, every night for the retreat. This may be something you want to do because your mind gets absorbed into the Dharma during sleep, and the next day you get loads of inspired ideas. Are you going to be doing any journaling during your retreat? Will you take the journal? Now, some people go, no, you're not allowed to. You'll lose mindfulness and your intellect switches on, and you go into the lower jhana of mental analysis is present, where you may want to be in the higher states where there is no mental analysis, just rapture, bliss, equanimity. Or you may want to drop the rapture off and just go bliss and equanimity. Or you go, no, this week I'm just pure equanimity, and anything that's not equanimous I'm going to dissolve. So you can decide how you're going to do the retreat, what's needed and the objectives of the retreat. And then you decide your protocol. How do you harvest the stillness from every exercise that you do? You have to anchor that into your psyche. Remember, it's the other side of the coin which we're cultivating. We're not cultivating any physical skill. We're not cultivating any astral skill. We're not cultivating any mental skill. What we're doing is harvesting the underlying emptiness under clairvoyance, so that clairvoyance will serve us when we need it. You don't build clairvoyant skill. You awaken clairvoyant skill through harvesting the emptiness underneath it. So how do you do that? You have to write down your protocols so that during the retreat you're not thinking. You don't want to go into this intellectual state of analyzing what you're doing and how to do it. This all has to be done beforehand. So when you're preparing for a retreat, a lot of retreats will have a theme. It's already all prepared for you. So in a Vipassana retreat, you'll have it's silence. You do your morning service, you'll do your sitting meditation, and there'll be a cycle that everyone follows, and you'll have a group leader that'll guide everybody through, and you just practice quiet mindfulness as you follow the patterns. As you're doing a Hermetic retreat, it's different. You have very distinct outcomes in mind. Everything is decided beforehand and is practiced and trained before the retreat. The longer the retreat, the longer the time beforehand that you need to prepare yourself to have success in the retreat. If you're going into a retreat and you don't prepare yourself adequately, you're going to find you're in this place of, how do we put it? What do I do now? I have to do this. And then you've broken your frequency of your meditation. So as an example, I used to do one Kabbalah letter each year. That would be my major exercise for the year. And when I'm building that one Kabbalah letter, it's a theme that continues. So is that when I go into retreat, my concentration on that letter is for the whole retreat. I just hold that feeling, that frequency, released of the body, released of the astral, released of the mental, and I'm just in a feeling of expanded universal consciousness. The whole universe is that frequency. And I just quietly observe it for the period of the retreat. And that's preset before I start. I've already hit critical mass within it. Already know what I'm doing and already know how it functions, and I just deepen the critical mass of my mind, just paying attention to that. So you need to decide these things before you start the retreat. Other things to look at are your rules on social interactions with other people in the retreat. As I said before, it's best not to have any social interactions. And no time at all for interacting with people. It's just quiet stillness. You sit in quietude and you practice. You don't want to be engaging anybody. You don't want to be interacting with anybody. You don't want to be talking to anybody. And some retreats will have, if you've got a health problem, go talk to the group leader. If there's a serious problem. And what is your rule on media? Are you allowed to bring your phone to the retreat? I think the best thing to do is leave it at home. Don't leave your phone in the car if you're going to have a cabin for a week. Just leave it at home. Just switch your phone off and go, no, I'm not taking it. I'll see you in a week, phone. Have a good week. And just switch it off. And if there's an emergency, oh, bad luck. You missed it. So this is much better off for your practice. Other things to look at is do you have a spiritual mentor in the physical, which is going to guide you through this? Or do you have a spiritual mentor in the spiritual world? I don't learn from physical people anymore. I'm a medium. I learn from spirits. So I invoke a spirit that's suitable for what I want to do, and then I pay attention to the frequency of that spirit, and bring the light of that spirit through a mental, astral, physical body, and it inspires and fills me with the knowledge I need in order to understand what I want to do. That's my preferred method of learning. Now, sometimes it's a direct dialogue where you're talking to a person. But what I like to do, and this is a much deeper, more efficient method, is I move into the frequency of the spirit, I feel them, then I absorb the teachings that that spirit wants to give me as an energy, as a light, and then I stream that light and saturate the three bodies continually until the way I think moves onto that frequency, how I feel moves onto that frequency, and how I act moves onto that frequency. And there's a type of knowing which arises. You have this sense of, I understand that, I know what to do. And you pay attention to the frequencies that are part of the transmission from that deity for the practices you're going to do, for that retreat, for whatever rituals you're working with. And doing it this way, you get a lot of the vibrational feelings and nuances you can't get in a conversation. If you invoke a deity, and the deity's in front of you, it's like talking to another person. There's only so much you can read. But if you take the frequency energy and you pass it through the three bodies, you are the deity in that moment. You feel what's happening. And that deity moves that energy through your three bodies. And depending on how much space you allow is how sensitive you become in responding to that particular transmission. So for me, working in retreats, I always have a spiritual guide to inspire me to what I'm going to do during that retreat. And this is a little bit of a, how would we put it? You have your vibrational match to God already. You're already perfect on all these different levels. But inside of that, the whole universe is a part of your highest. So that deity that you're invoking is already a part of you on that higher level. And because you are the universe. So this is a very sort of abstract thing to sort of comprehend. But when you're in union with the deity, there's a supply-demand thing happening. You have a demand inside you and they have a supply. And that demand is set by how do you ascend, what do you need for your own ascension to move towards your highest. And there's a vibrational signature, and the deity senses that signature, senses what they need to supply to balance that out for elevation to take place. And they feel the energy that's needed for you to evolve and grow. So this method or protocol for spiritual practice basically means that when you're in union with the deity, you're coming closer to your own perfection. It's not that deity possesses you. It's actually the opposite. You have a body, you're possessing the deity, and you're encompassing the deity as a part of the whole and moving up. So there's a different type of psychology. The person who has the body, just from a dualistic standpoint, is stronger. Deities don't have bodies, so they can't be stronger. So but they have very high frequencies and qualities. So you can look at it from many different different views. But equalization is basically what you're after, is for your weaknesses to equalize and move up to become strengths. And they're very sensitive to what is inside your mental, astral, physical body. It's a perfect fit into your needs. Okay, so the next thing you look at when you're going into retreat is recognizing the stages of change. A lot of people go to retreat and say, yeah, I'll try it. Well, what are they going to get when they try something? A mediocre result. Now, if you go into a retreat with a very clear plan, I want to achieve this, 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 and this, and you're focused on those results, and each day you see changes and you monitor changes, good, okay, I've achieved stillness in that particular exercise, I'll move on to the next one. I've harvested the stillness of that exercise and move on to the next. And the equanimity continues to get collected, so you move up the vibrational scale with your goal being there and you move towards your goal. You define the causation chain of what you want to achieve. What are the mental changes need to take place? What are the astral changes need to take place? What are the physical changes need to take place for that goal to manifest as a reality, for you to awaken that particular thing? Now, you have to clearly define that before you start, and many of these things are not predictable, but the process is predictable, and you create a self-fulfilling prophecy of an outcome, and then you fulfill the prophecy. If you don't have a self-fulfilling prophecy in place, it can be difficult to fulfill that prophecy. All right, so if you have any questions on entering into a retreat and so forth, let me know. I'll be answering most questions via the Vimeo channel, so let me know which one of those channels you're on, with the Hermetics, the Tai Chi, or the Qigong. And this topic is more oriented towards the Hermetics and the Qigong, so I can post more videos there on this particular topic. In closing on the concept of the retreat, retreats are more designed for people who have already hit critical mass within their practice. They're not designed for beginners. Beginners are just feel uncomfortable, want to run away. So remember that you need to have hit a critical mass. You've done 100 hours or so of a particular practice, and you can just move your mind like a feather to the frequency of that practice, and there it is. You're enveloped in it. Now you're ready for a retreat. Then you can get value out of the retreat. A lot of people go to a retreat as a beginner, and they don't like it, and they're never going to do it again. But if you've developed an addiction to a particular frequency, a type of light or a love, or a particular type of prayer, and you, I love doing that, feels so good, I'm going to do this for a whole week. And then you take that week out and you tune into that frequency and you cultivate it and you strengthen the critical mass in your relationship to that. Wow, you want to go do a retreat every week. It feels so good. That is a successful state of being ready to do a retreat. Let's say you want to vital breathing. I'm going to do 1 week of vital breathing. You want to be doing vital breathing every day, so that the moment you put your hands, say, "Ooh, there's vital energy. I can feel that." And then expand it through your body, go into the field, pay attention to it, and make sure that you can just move your mind gently, and there it is. If you can't move your mind gently to the frequency of concentration that you want to develop, then you're not ready for it. Okay, now the last type of thing I want to talk about with retreats is physical retreats, Tai Chi retreats. Now, if you're going to a retreat where you're training a physical martial art of some type, this isn't a meditation retreat, it's a martial arts retreat. There's social interactions, there's touching your training partner, there's learning new skills, you're developing skill sets. That's not a meditation retreat. So a spiritual retreat is hitting critical mass and maintaining, expanding critical mass on a frequency, building something inside of that retreat. A martial arts retreat is not that. So define, is it a spiritual thing of the mental to the astral? Is it an astral physical thing like developing skills and learning, where you're journaling, you're writing down, you're trying to figure something out? These are all very, very different things. So clearly define what type of retreat you're going to do. So for instance, if you're going to a Tai Chi retreat, and I have the Tai Chi mat over there that can put up on the wall and bounce your partner into. This high intensity process, your body is exhausted, your feelings are exhausted, your mind is being pushed to the limit, you're trying to figure out how to do it. Every issue you're improving your method, you're dropping a bit more, you're sinking, letting go of tension a little bit more, and you're refining your method. This type of high intensity training retreat is going to require a balancing between the physical, astral, and mental right throughout. So between 1 hour rounds of training something, you have to sit down and meditate. You have to sit down and enter the stillness and collect your thoughts and really look at from stillness what you're doing. Look at the etheric blueprint of what you're building. Look at your etheric body and go, am I developing what I want to be developing? And so forth. So these types of retreats, you can't maintain a continuity of one frequency the whole time. you need to, because you're in a state of learning. So the retreats I've run in the past, the 10-day courses and so forth, they're high-intensity learning environments. People are coming to learn a wide range of skills. So their physical body is being challenged to do things, their astral view is being challenged, their intellect is being challenged, and their concentration is being challenged to develop a new skill set. This is very different to a classical meditation retreat. Okay, so in closing, clearly define every aspect of the retreat beforehand. Make sure you hit critical mass within the frequency of what you want to do. If it's a mantra, make sure you're really good at that mantra before you take time out in the retreat. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, and see you on the next video.